The mindset that says people only want things from me and they just want to take, you really have to ask yourself, how much are you give out of your own core values, or are you giving out of the people pleasing? Because when you do things for those reasons, you will feel like crap. It just is what it is. You will feel that way. Hey, YouTube family, guess what, honey? We are back. We are all the way back with the podcast, and I cannot wait to talk about recommitment. If this is your first time here, I want you to click subscribe. I want you to follow the page, follow the channel, and every other channel elsewhere, because she's back and she's on a mission. I cannot believe that it has been over a year since I've done a podcast. The last time I did a podcast was May 3rd of 2022. Here's the crazy part. The very first episode is, did you have a real start or a false start? And now here I am a year later coming back to this topic of recommitment, because I said on the podcast I wasn't going to erase anything from the first episode to where we are now. Why? Because I believe in showing people the process. I believe showing people what you actually have going on in the moment, like you're doing your best with what you have, and then your growth journey throughout it just encourages people to let them know, like, hey, just start with what you have and grow your way into the kind of business that you want, the kind of business owner you want to be. And so today we're talking all about recommitment. Recommitment to your goals, recommitment to your life, recommitment to the things that you want and you desire. Each of us started out with goals in January, and I think I should be using my microphone, right? Maybe that'll, she's a little rusty. But what I was saying is this: each of us, my audience is predominantly Christian women and coaches, have goals that we set out for in January. Right? And somewhere along the way, whether those were personal goals, business goals, whatever they were, somewhere along the way, some of those things don't get accomplished. And we'll never know why if we don't take time to evaluate. Right? So as I was thinking about this recommitment and what does that mean to recommit, there were three things as I was mulling this over in my own mind. Number one was my health. Number two were relationships. And number three was my business. And when I wrote these things down, when I wrote them out, I started to see not only where I wanted to recommit, but why I wanted to recommit, right? So what was the first step? Because I'm trying to help someone out here, right? Number one, I asked myself, where have I quit? We quit on things ahead of time without even noticing. And usually it comes by way of our excuses. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. Recommitting to this podcast. I wanted to remain consistent with the podcast and I quit. But every time I wanted to start it up again, every time I'm like, I'm going to start this podcast again, immediately thoughts like, girl, you do too much already. You don't have the time. You definitely don't have the energy to do this podcast. And you're putting just one more thing on your to-do list, and that's going to drain even more of your creativity. But this is why evaluating is so important. When we sit down with ourselves and we're real with ourselves, like we're not sitting down and lying to ourselves about something. You want to take a real sober look at what you set out to do and you're not doing, right? Like just period. What you should do, what you could do, but what you're not doing. That's literally the pattern that you're seeing here, right? And so I knew I should do a podcast because I wanted to do a podcast. I knew I could do a podcast. Like I had the capability to do the podcast, but I wasn't doing the podcast. So I had to really evaluate why that was happening. And what was happening was my excuses, right? So here you have on one side, all of the reasons, all of the excuses, just all of the thoughts you have about why you shouldn't do something. I like to be of the belief that I like to give my mind equal airtime. And what that means is if I'm going to spend time in this negative space or this space of I can't, I also want to spend time in this space of what's possible if I could, right? What's possible if I did? And so when I look at that, when I give my mind equal airtime, what happens is it gives me a sober look on what I actually want. Because a lot of us, we quit on the goals that we have, not because we don't want them anymore. We quit on the goals that we have because we don't really believe that we can achieve the thing that we want to set out to do, right? So it's a belief issue. It's not anything else but a belief issue. And so I had to really look at my beliefs when it came to the goals that I was setting. So what are some of these goals? I'm just going to name a few for you, let you know how I got through them, and then give you some questions for yourself that you can ask yourself when it comes to your own recommitments for your own goals, okay? So in my relationships, I put something as simple as, you know what? I want my weekends back with my kids. I want to take family walks on a Saturday morning because the weather's beautiful out here. Making friendships here in Arizona. I'm new here and I would like to make some friendships out here. I want to have talks with my family on the phone for absolutely no reason. For business, I wanted to create content that had deep value for my audience. I wanted to create quality content, right? Not just reels, not just dancing and funny stuff or some tips here and some tips there. I wanted to be able to help someone and do it in a way that's not in a 90-second reel. And that was important to me. I really, as a coach, my desire is always to help, right? To help assist someone in making a decision that they really want, help someone create new beliefs and new strategies. And you just can't do that in a 90-second reel. And then lastly, in my health, I wanted to start exercising on a regular basis because it gives me more energy. I remember when I was exercising regularly, I just had more energy. I felt better. And because I felt better, I showed up better. And so that was something that was super important to me as well. So those are the goals that I'm kind of recommitting to, right? In a nutshell. I also want you to know that recommitting to something is not just goals and it's not just strategy. It's also mindset. And what I mean by that is if I'm recommitting myself to these goals, that means I'm recommitting myself to a mindset. I'm recommitting myself to not judging myself when I'm realizing that I'm pivoting my business model. I'm recommitting to having self-compassion for myself, that as I recommit to this exercise journey and understanding chronic illness and everything my own body goes through and my own nervous system, that I will move forward in self-compassion and at the same time produce some consistent results for myself, right? So my relationships, as I'm building relationships, as I'm talking with my family, I'm recommitting to the mindset of creatively finding ways to connect with people when I know that the time that I have is precious. And as I commit myself in these three areas, right, I'm recommitting myself to my goals. I'm recommitting myself to the strategy for those goals. And I'm recommitting myself to the mindset required to carry out those goals. As I'm doing all of those things, I'm asking myself, what will this produce in me, right? What will be the benefit of this journey? And the benefit is more energy, more joy, and more connection. And so I kind of just have some reflective questions for you so that if you want to start recommitting to some goals in your life, you could just pick any area of your life. It doesn't have to be the same areas that I just named here. You can pick any area of your life and you can start asking yourself these questions so that you can recommit yourself. Number one, you're asking yourself, what do I want to recommit to, right? That comes from a place of desirability. And when you write down the things that you want to recommit to, one by one, I want you to ask yourself, why do I want to recommit to this? One thing I know to be true is that I stick to the decisions that I make when I like my reasons for them. When I make a decision and I don't really like my reasons for them, it puts me in a very weird energy. I feel like, all of a sudden I get into this victim mindset of, oh, people just want something from me. The mindset that says, oh, people want something from me, they just want to take. You really have to ask yourself, how much are you give out of your own core values? Or are you giving out of the people pleasing? Are you giving out of the proving to people? Are you giving out of needing validation from people? Because when you do things for those reasons, you will feel like crap. It just is what it is. You will feel that way. So making decisions and liking your reasons for them will always keep you in integrity, and you will appreciate the journey, even the hard moments, so much more because you're in integrity with yourself. Okay, so number one, what am I recommitting to? Number two, why do I want to recommit to this goal? Number three, what does recommitment look like in this area of my life? When I said I wanted to recommit to my health goals, I had to actually put down, what does that look like? Does that look like exercising 3 times a week? If it is exercising 3 times a week, what kind of exercises do I want to do? Does it look like a certain diet? Is it a gluten-free diet? Is it a no sugar, no flour diet for a certain amount of time? Like, you want to actually have tangible, practical things on how recommitment looks. And then lastly, you want to have a way to measure whether or not you have been committed to that process. So maybe in the beginning of the week, you have set the plan of what recommitment looks like to you in that area. Then at the end of the week, you're asking yourself, did I commit to the things that I set out? And if you didn't, for whatever reason, just ask yourself, because it's a belief issue. Did I let myself off the hook with excuses? Was there an actual event that happened that stopped this from going forward, right? Because sometimes it is real things. So asking yourself and just reflecting on, did I commit to the things I said I was going to commit to? And then don't beat yourself up. Don't judge yourself. Like, this is a whole exercise. You are literally on the journey of recommitting. Right? So you're just looking at what you want to recommit to, why you want to recommit to it, what are the strategies you're going to put in place to recommit, and then reflecting on, did I keep my word to myself? Right? You want to have your own back when it comes to your goals. We always want everybody else to have our back. Have your own back when it comes to your goals. All right? So this is me, returning with the podcast, giving you some life tips, some business tips, some mindset tips to help you move forward in life and in business. If you want to keep up with what I got going on, I'll link down my email list for you guys. My email list gets the inside scoop to everything and all the other channels where you can find me. But we're back, baby. We are back. We are back. And she is recommitting. So let's get it. I will see you next week. Peace.